We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
Oh, well, good Saturday morning. It's wonderful weather, wonderful time to talk a ton of baseball. Eric, don't adjust your TV or your screen. I had to debut in New Jersey that I got that like, and sometimes you can tell that it's the baby blue. Do you have any inkling as to where I went with this jersey? Because it's podcast adjacent.
So actually, when I saw it on when we were talking a little bit pre-show. Okay, so actually, I'm seeing there's a Brewers patch on the right sleeve. Am I seeing correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, it's not Hoskins Brewers, is it?
It's
I didn't think so.
no, it's blank,
It's
which
blank.
is
Okay,
it's blank, but that's why it's like podcast adjacent.
got it. Okay.
It's I couldn't resist when I
Um,
saw it. It's the one with the Brew Crew,
okay.
which I was like, you know what? Like I'm a Jersey guy. Like my closet is way too full with it's all of like the actual clothes are like in a different closet. The closet now is just jerseys.
Right.
So, but it's one that I was like, you know what? I'll do it for the show.
There you go. I like
So
it. It's a nice color.
yeah,
It's a good
I'm a
color.
huge fan of the powder. Like I love the Phillies powder blue. It almost
Yeah.
makes me wonder, Eric, the to get to get to the place where like every team uses the powder blue. That like it's like one of like I know that now like they have the City Connect ones. They have all that stuff, but to have this as like a an alternate like almost like a fourth jersey, I feel like because I remember as a kid like the one that jumps off other than the Phillies is like the Ozzie Smith St. Louis Cardinals
I
powder
was just
blue.
saying the Cardinals. Yeah. Yeah, I think the powder blues are probably my favorite jersey. I've always been a color blue guy, so I
Yeah,
really like those ones. Not that there's other ones I'd want to get rid of per se, but I wish they could incorporate those powder blues a little bit more.
for sure. And listen, as good as the powder blue looks, the Phillies really used Colorado as the jumping off point to really, um, yeah, they put 7 up in the first. It does give people a good opportunity to be able to get to be able to put the bad taste in their mouth from the way that the homestand started. Ends a little bit better. Talk to me about the things that you noticed coming out of that weekend.
I think yesterday was a really good. I mean, again, it's Coors Field, it's the Rockies, it was Michael Lorenzen, but I think getting the offense going like that is something that, maybe is good for momentum. Coming off a couple of solid wins to finish off the Washington series was I think really important because it's so funny. It's so early in the year, but it was almost amusing watching some of the meltdowns on Twitter and everything after losing the series to Texas and dropping that first one to Washington in pretty bad fashion. But I think it was good to kind of wake people up. It's still a good team. Offense has some pop when they're clicking, and the pitching is, Nola looked great yesterday, and he had to pitch in the same, in Coors Field in colder weather than he likes pitching in. So there are a lot of good takeaways from that one. But I also think the way they kind of fought back in some of those Washington games showed some fight, and they're it's going to be a fun season. It's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, and I think, Eric, we in this city we do a really good job at eagle-fying all the other sports and forgetting that like the Eagles games they feel that way for a reason because there's only 17 of them. You can't sit there and analyze every game like it's an Eagles game because there are 162 of them. The fatigue is there, even with the other two sports. You've got 82 games. Like you can't possibly think about the way that these games play out. But like the slow start against with Texas, right? You get the win on opening day, and then you lose the next two in disappointing fashion because you're seeing an offense that is really struggling. I would argue with you that like there's really no reason to start the season before April 1st. That the fact that they're playing actual meaningful games, not meaningful games, but they're starting the season in March, is tough. I'm really hoping that like this road trip gives them an opportunity to kind of for us to see a little bit more of what we think this lineup could look like. You saw Trey Turner yesterday with 3 hits. You saw Marsh with a gets
a nuke,
takes care of the mistake and hits. He and Schwarber both take them into the second deck. They really took advantage of those things, which is what you would hope they would do with a team like Colorado, considering he threw 40 plus pitches in the first inning. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this game today is supposed to be some kind of like pseudo bullpen game for the Rockies. So you've already got a taxed bullpen on it really sets them up for a really good kind of get right series.
Yeah, I totally agree, which is good. I mean, I saw something yesterday, like I think it's now like an 8-game winning streak against the Rockies the Phillies have,
okay,
which is good heading into the beginning of this coming week because then they go to San Francisco where I feel like they haven't won a game since 2007. I just feel like every time we go out, and when I don't know what it is, but they just cannot hit in that ballpark, and every time it's so bad. So yeah, I'm hoping this kind of gets them right. Gets the offense feeling like they're kind of in a rhythm and in a groove. It was good seeing the infield hit a little bit because it's funny. Yeah. All offseason we talk about the outfield, but all 3 starting outfielders right now are hitting over 300, and Adolis Garcia has an on base percentage well over 300. So something we might not see by the end of the season. But it's good to see those guys performing, and then it was good seeing Bryce getting a couple homers now. Yeah. Trey with the big game yesterday. Schwarber, I expect it's so funny. I was looking at his OPS this morning, and it's over 9, but I feel like he has not he's hit a couple tanks, but other than that, I feel like he hasn't really been putting the bat on the ball much, and I think he's going to get better as the season progresses too. So it's good seeing these guys kind of maybe get into a rhythm now, get some confidence, and pick up that momentum heading into a tough trip Monday through Wednesday in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think and we can in the outfield, right? The surprise from Garcia has been one of the biggest bright spots because not only are you seeing him, right, the ball speed off the bat is really impressive. So that he's also having really good at bats. He's having at bats where like you're not seeing him chase a ton. You're seeing him really be smart at the plate. You're seeing really, really good at bats from Justin Crawford, which is really, really good to see considering that that ninth when that ninth spot was occupied by Rojas, it was essentially an automatic out almost 90% of the time. So like when you look at how that changes the dynamic of the lineup, you saw that in that first homestand where he's putting the bat on the ball, he's getting on base, he's being the traffic ahead of those three at the top of the lineup. That really changes the way that they have to pitch those guys. It's a way to kind of, and I know we talked about it in the past, but like it's a way to kind of kickstart that opportunity to get those guys more at bats with more guys on base.
Yeah, absolutely. Really impressed with what I've seen from Crawford from both an offensive and defensive perspective, because I know there's some questions about his ability to man center field, but he's looked good out there. And it probably helps that having, Marsh was an average center fielder, I feel like, but I feel like he's above average left fielder. Putting Adolis Garcia in right, like the defense in the outfield is so much better this year, and I think having those two guys in the corners could maybe even help Crawford a little bit in that regard. But just his speed and just his ability to just make contact with the ball is something that I think Phillies fans have been yearning for some time now. And again, we're not going to see much pop with him, but just get on the bases and make something happen. Set it up for Turner, and if he gets on, you're basically then looking at Schwarber or as basically your cleanup hitter there, and a chance for him to hit some log up some more RBIs here because more guys are going to be on in front of him. But yeah, I've been super impressed with him. I've been impressed with really the whole outfield. I've been really impressed with, which is not what I thought I'd be saying here on April 4th.
No, it's and when you look at the way that they have really constructed this lineup, it has the opportunity if they play the right way. And when I say the right way, like they need to get better at passing the baton. You see some of these other teams that are really doing a good job at like if teams are trying to avoid certain players, the other guys down the lineup need to make that a mistake so that they can give the opportunities to those guys coming down the lineup. Like you saw in those first 4 games, what they had, 40 plus strikeouts in 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
To see them be smarter, you're starting to see some of the bats turn around. That last game, right to end the homestand with Justin Crawford with the coming back 5-1, tying the game up. Some ugly at bats late where you really had an opportunity to be able to get some runs or like to kind of tack on, and you didn't, which is why you're in a position to go to the extra innings. But then Justin Crawford comes up with a huge hit in the in the 10th to be able to to solidify the win. But like it's really you're starting to see that transition to something that we've talked about all offseason, which is the guys that are the most impactful need to be the most impactful guys. And you're starting to see that. You're starting to see the power from Schwarber, kind of return to exactly kind of where it left off. You see Harper starting to kind of get his groove, right? 2 home runs in the last couple games. You're starting to see Bohm make some really smart decisions, taking the ball opposite way, like taking the pitches that are there and really kind of passing the baton and letting the next guy kind of make that staff pay for putting the other guys on. It's just a fun Schwarber stat that I saw though, Eric. So in the first at bat after both of Schwarber's contracts, both of them are home runs.
Really?
Yeah. So his first plate appearance in 22 on opening day was a home run, and then his first plate appearance in this season, also a home run.
All right. We should start signing to like weekly contracts, I guess.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing where it's like you look at, where this team is. They have an opportunity to be able to really, stack these 3 games, right? Get some, if they can take care of this Rockies team, which I mean, to say that they're a 4A team is an understatement. I think when you look at some of the guys that are up and down this roster, right, there's a familiar face batting in the 3-hole in Mickey Moniak. They got a series of guys that are essentially cast-offs from other organizations. That Rockies team is just really they're not to the level of most Major League Baseball teams, which is a shame. But at the same time, you have to take advantage of that and really kind of play off the momentum of going. You have an opportunity to go into that, that series in San Fran, winning 4 in a row. You can kind of set up your rotation to, have your best guys going in San Francisco in a early season series that can kind of set up as something you might see down the road. Talk to me about the approach of the lineup really coming into these last 2 games in Colorado.
I think just be aggressive, really, because again, it's a park that is definitely prone to home runs. It's an offensive player's dream to hit there. It's a pitcher's nightmare. So, and like you said, I mean, they don't really have any pitching that makes me nervous. They have a couple guys at the back end of the bullpen who are decent, but it's just one of those things where it stinks for the Rockies in a way because, well, the owner's cheap, so I don't really feel bad for them. But it's almost impossible to bring good pitching there, right? Because what pitcher is going to go there on a contract and then have their stats go the opposite trend downward for their next contract, right? So it's really tough to do that. But it is, the offense needs to just jump on pitchers early like they did yesterday. I don't expect them to put up 7 runs in the first inning every day, but there's no reason that they can't tag every single one of these Rockies. They should score at least 5 or 6 runs in every single game at Coors Field. No, it'll just be up to the Phillies pitching to do what Nola did yesterday to shut everything down. Hopefully Luzardo can have a bit of a rebound start tonight. But yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it'll be great kind of if they could get the sweep this series and then kind of have, ride that momentum into a tough place to play in San Francisco. I think that would be great. But I'd really like to see the lineup carry that momentum, not throw out any duds. Like, I know, the old thing where it's like when the Phillies score 10 runs, they don't score for the next, 3 days or whatever. They can't let that happen today. They have to go out and they have to score. They have to do the same thing tomorrow because, again, you don't know. I mean, their lineup isn't great, but when you said Mickey Moniak hitting a 3-hole, that made me chuckle a little bit. Hunter Goodman, the catcher, he's not terrible. He's got some pop, but yeah, I mean, right. Their lineup is not good. So I really hope the Phillies pitching can kind of keep them at bay like Nola did yesterday. But yeah, I mean, the offense just needs to be aggressive and jump on Rockies pitching early.
Yeah, I think if you can just essentially rinse and repeat what you did yesterday and really try to, especially considering, like we talked about earlier, the position that they're in after yesterday, having to go into the bullpen early with the caveat that they're going to see essentially a bullpen game today, really gives them a good advantage in these next 2 games. But you have to kind of do what you did yesterday, which is, be smart early, take advantage of the pitches that they're giving you, and take the runs where they are. And you saw them kind of, thing that I liked yesterday was that they really didn't score all one way, right? You saw them score off the home runs, right? But you saw them kind of go station to station when that was what was offered. And I think that's a more cerebral approach than I think that we've seen in the past, because we've seen in the past it's like it was either all or nothing.
Yeah, I thought it was a really complete offensive game. Like you said, I mean, when Bohm came up with the bases loaded in the first, he has that tendency to kind of roll the ball over a little bit to third base or shortstop, and I was nervous about that. But like you said earlier, he waited on it, took the ball the other way into the in the right center, played it a couple runs that way. I really like the approach we saw from pretty much everyone. Realmuto got on because of some help from the sun there, but he's one I'm a little nervous about that offense. And for 3 years with him, offensively, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess. But
here's the thing, though, Eric. If you can think about where he's hitting in the lineup, right? If he's
right.
batting in the 7 or 8 hole,
Mm-hmm.
the pressure to perform at a high level offensively isn't really there. He really needs to just be a professional hitter, is what I would say. Like, he doesn't. The offensive production doesn't need to be what it was a couple years ago when he was batting in like the 4 or 5 hole, right? He's a lot further down the lineup, and I think if he can approach, if his at bats at the plate can approach the way that he approaches how he catches and calls a game, then I think we're always going to feel like we overpaid for that contract. But I think when you can't undersell the value of what he brings when he's leading a staff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, the pitchers love throwing to him. I think, a lot of credit should go to Caleb Cotham and the pitching coaching staff, but I think JT is a big part of that too. And it's just, I guess with him, it's one of those things where he still calls a good game. He still manages the pitching staff really well. So you're definitely getting value there. But yeah, I'm just nervous that eventually he's already caught so many more innings than anyone in baseball over the last, 5 years or so. I'm just really nervous about how taxing that's going to be on him as this contract ages. But like you said, he's hitting in the 8 hole right now. We don't need him to necessarily hit, 20 home runs anymore. It's more of a, just like you said, be a smart hitter. Don't throw away at bats, work a pitch count, work a walk, hit a couple slap singles if you need to, but just don't be an automatic out. But obviously production is going to be down.
All right, so perfect segue into the pitching staff. Really, really impressive outing from Sanchez on opening day. Not as great the second time around, but you're seeing him kind of like in that second. I was actually kind of almost more impressed with the second outing because he had to fight through and battle when he didn't really have great stuff, and was still really productive. And then, in games 2 and 3, right, you saw some inconsistencies with Nola and with Luzardo. Why Taijuan Walker is still getting the ball every couple of days. I know that when Wheeler comes in, he'll kind of go and be like the last guy in the bullpen and kind of pitch the mop-up things, but like it's really frustrating to kind of still know that they haven't found a way to have him not be on the roster and not get like talk to me about the rotation and we're kind of like we're a handful of games in. We've seen every guy at least once, and then we have to spend a decent chunk of time talking about Andrew Painter.
I was going to talk about everyone else, and I figured we could lead into that because I'm very excited for what we saw there. What you said about Sanchez was exactly what I was thinking when I was watching that game. He didn't have his best stuff. He struggled a little bit. Pitch count got up there, but the results were still good. I mean, he has become just like the prototypical like type of pitcher that you want on the mound every 5th day. I don't know if obviously you have your Scoobles, you have your Skeens and everyone like that, but like Christopher Sanchez has pitched himself into a level where I don't think you can argue that he's not a top 5 maybe pitcher in baseball at this point. And again, even when he's struggling, like the results are still good. So I love that. I love the fact that they extended him. I think that was a really good deal for both sides, and I really want him to kind of man this rotation. Obviously Wheeler's on his way back, but Wheeler, who knows how much longer he plans on playing. But I think having him kind of spearhead this rotation is such a smart move. He had the Phillies really lucked. I wouldn't even say luck, but they hitting on him in that trade with the Rays was one of the most significant trades I think that this organization will make. And at the time, everyone's looking at it, it's like, okay, see what happens, but the
Yeah.
expectations weren't really there. But man, what a player he's turned into, and it's just like an absolute joy to watch him pitch every fifth day. Nola, I thought was really good yesterday. Again, what we saw in the second game of the season, I think is kind of typical Nola, right? It's like some good innings, some bad innings.
Yeah, for sure.
But he ended up going 5 innings, 3 earned runs. Last night he pitched into what, the 6th. So there's
5 and a third.
Yeah, and as his arm stretches out a little bit more, he'll probably be able to go a couple more pitches than they're letting him go right now. They always kind of have a shorter leash in the beginning of the year, so doing what and getting 9 strikeouts yesterday was impressive.
Right.
Again, it was the Rockies lineup, but still, it was impressive nonetheless. Luzardo need a bounce back today. He's obviously, we know what he can do. We know he's a good, but he is prone to some of those blow up type games. I'm not.
Yeah, we saw a little bit last year.
Yeah, remember it was like a 2 or 3 game stretch where he gave up like 20 runs in like 3 games or something, which inflated that ERA a lot. But he has great stuff, and he'll have those games sometimes. So just would really be comforting to see a nice bounce back today. I think this is a good team to try to figure that out against. So hopefully his stuff's working, and we see that, because again, he's another guy that's signed long term now. So those top 3 guys, Nola, Sanchez, and Luzardo, are going to be in the rotation for the foreseeable future. Taijuan Walker will not be, luckily. I'm not even going to spend too much time talking about him, because I feel like it's been the same thing year after year. He can be serviceable sometimes. Did not look that way the other night, but I'm not really too worried about it, because once Wheeler's back, and after this season, we don't really have to worry about it anymore.
Yep.
And I think the expectation's always there that he could just get absolutely shelled. He could come out and throw a decent game, but I'm never going into a Walker outing and saying, this is going to be good. If it happens, pleasant surprise.
Great, right?
But then, like you said, we got to spend some time on maybe the most important outing of the year so far. Andrew Painter looked awesome. It was great seeing the fastball velocity stay consistent where it was. Racking up 8 Ks was huge. Command looked good. Like I said, velocity was good. I was really impressed with what we saw from him. So that I hopefully, kind of stifled some of the concerns that were with him coming out of, last season and some of the velocity stuff with spring training.
Yeah. To say I was impressed was an understatement. And a really cool, Mark and I were talking on Thursday, right? The really cool night in Philly sports where you have Andrew Painter and Porter Martone both debuting simultaneously, both with, the precipice of huge pieces that are going to be part of these 2 franchises moving forward. I mean, Eric, I'm looking at a side-by-side video of Andrew Painter and Zach Wheeler, and they look almost identical in all of the mechanics and all the body movement. I mean, 8 strikeouts. He pitched, 5 scoreless. Had the Nats on the ropes guessing. The one pitch to me that kind of stands out, right, is the James Wood at bat in the 5th, where he just kind of he dances around the black a lot, but then just gassed up a high fastball to kind of take advantage of, I think, probably what he saw earlier on in the bat, which is a guy who's he's a huge swing and miss guy. Right. And if he makes contact, he's got a ton of power and can really drive the ball. But the way that he manipulated the pitches earlier on in the bat allowed him to go up and kind of climb the zone a little bit, which is something that we've seen from Wheeler a lot. So I think him being up and being around the Sanchez, Luzardo, Wheeler, like the Nola, like those guys that are really, truly, really good professional pitchers. Right. Like he's touching, like in the 5th, touching 97, 98. Like and listen, I know that it's his first appearance, but really, really impressed with what I saw. And to me, as he gets older, right, remembering that he's young, even after coming off the surgery, has the ability to be able to kind of climb the ladder of this rotation, and comes across as a guy that you can spin at the top of your rotation and really pair him with Sanchez and Luzardo and be that right-handed power pitcher in the middle of those two guys.
Yeah, I mean that's like, it's super exciting to think about, because as I was saying earlier, you kind of have the rotation, the four guys of the rotation set up for at least the next 5 years. You have Painter with Sanchez, Luzardo, and Nola. And honestly, if you move Nola down to the fourth spot, and Painter can, in a season or two, move into kind of that the second spot there in between Sanchez and Luzardo, like you were saying, I mean, that takes a lot of pressure off Nola, I think, too, because I think at this point in his career, he's probably more of like a number 3 starter or so. Moving him back there, and then having him kind of do what he can do, that it takes a lot of pressure off of him. And I think the expectations then are more now going to be placed on those top 3 guys in your rotation. But I was nervous that with Painter, if something went wrong during that start, whether it was velocity or results, that the scrutiny was going to be, oh no, is this what we saw last year? I'm just so glad that what happened was the complete opposite of that. Like, he looked the part in every way, right? He was able, like you said, the velocity stayed into the 5th inning. The only run that was allowed was an inherited runner that the bullpen kind of let get in on him. But yeah, I mean, if he can keep doing that and having the life on that fastball up in the zone against hitters, that's really good. He also had really used his secondary pitches really well, I thought, too.
Yeah.
So everything I saw from him was just super impressive, and with just like how tall he is and his extension, I was always excited for Painter, and now actually seeing him on a big league mound and seeing it happen, I'm like, oh man, I think that hype might be real. Like, he has a chance to be really, really, really good. And I mean, it's his rookie season. There's going to be some speed bumps along the way,
right? Yeah,
and that needs to be put out there as an expectation. But that those are learning curves that he'll have to deal with as just a 22-year-old starting his first major league season.
Yeah, no, I mean, a ton to like, and nice to see him have that positive outing, right? And then so you're going to see Luzardo today, and then you're going to see Walker on the getaway day in Colorado. So I don't hate the fact that he's going to miss Colorado, because for a young pitcher, any of those mistakes, I think Colorado can be not a very forgiving place. And I think him going out to pitch in warm weather early in the season out in San Francisco, it's a huge ballpark, which you might be able to get away with a couple fly ball mistakes. I like the way that lines up for him in the second start.
Yeah, I was kind of mapping that out too at one point. Yeah, I just wish it wasn't a 9:45 start time, because by the time it ends, it's going to be a little bit late. But you got to do what you got to do as a Phillies fan, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that it's good, and it's also, I think it'll be a good test, because not that the Nationals lineup is not great. I mean, I wouldn't say the Giants really are either, but just kind of seeing if he could go out and kind of do the same thing again against a different team on the road. But but like you said, it's a better pitching environment than Coors Field. Actually, as you were talking about Painter missing that, luckily, and how it can amplify mistakes, seeing Taijuan Walker pitch there tomorrow, if as a betting man, maybe taking the over on whatever that might be set at tomorrow might be a profitable decision.
That Eric, that might be a like a 13-8 final score.
Yeah. I was just a lot of times games out there, the over unders are set at at least 10.5. I could see this one maybe being set a little bit higher. So good games to watch on Easter with the family.
For sure.
But Bullpen,
because
it's funny.
you're looking, yeah, you're the bullpen has been kind of hit and miss. You've seen Duran struggled a little bit, but nothing that was truly a concern considering it's April 4th.
Yeah, nothing super concerning. Results haven't really been there, but I feel like some of the guys have been pitching better than what the results have kind of yielded. Like I really like what we're seeing from Jonathan Bolin. I know he's had a couple kind of unlucky situations, I would say, but his stuff, I really like what we're seeing, what we could see from him. Keller was kind of in that same situation. Like he had decent stuff, had kind of one bad pitch and kind of ruined that outing for him. Duran, I feel like, so I think watching him in the ninth is it's exhilarating, it's fun, but can also be super nerve wracking because that fastball gets hit. I mean, he throws it with heat, but the thing is major league hitters can touch 100 miles an hour now. So,
Yep.
I think he's still going to be a really good closer, and I'm very happy he's on our team. But I think the beginning of his tenure, right after the trade deadline last year, and what we were seeing with him was like almost automatically shutting every other. But then we saw later on the season, that fastball can kind of get tagged, and he can give up some homers.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about him, but I'm just like, okay, so maybe it's not as automatic as we were led into thinking in the beginning of his tenure here. The only one who I've been kind of, I guess, like not thrilled with was Kyle Backus. He looked good in the spring. He looks a little shaky now. Zach Pop is one of those guys, but I mean, again, they're not coming in necessarily high. They shouldn't be coming in necessarily high leverage situations anyway.
Yeah.
So again, I think they both have decent stuff. They just got to work through some things. But having that back end of Duran and Keller and Bolin and Alvarado, and Tanner Banks, I still really like where the bullpen's at, and I think they're going to kind of get better. But again, the results have been a little iffy to start out.
I'm going to float an idea past you.
Let's hear it.
We're in the playoffs. You're going to add Andrew Painter to that bullpen. Having that as an asset late in those late innings, with him now having a season's worth of experience, having him get the opportunity to come up in big moments. I don't like you're going to have and this is injuries aside, but like you're going to have the opportunity to he will legit sit in that fifth starter role for most if not all the season. Your playoff rosters are going to shrink a lot when the playoffs start. Adding him to the back end of that bullpen seems like a really, really, really fortuitous idea.
The Dodgers did it all last year, right? I mean, in that postseason series with Emmett Sheehan and these guys, I definitely don't hate it, especially in a in a best of 5 series, because then you really only need 3 starters. As you get into the best 7s, I actually wouldn't mind him taking the ball because I do not want Taijuan Walker touching it. I guess it'll depend on Wheeler's health too, and see where he's at with everything.
For sure.
But adding him kind of in like that Emmett Sheehan type role that the Dodgers used him in last year, I think that's what I think beat the Phillies is the fact that every single time they got a starter out of the game, there was another starter waiting to go who was equally as good, if not better, as the next one.
Yeah.
And by being able to do that in a postseason series, I think just strengthens the bullpen and is such a huge weapon. So I would actually, if assuming Wheeler's healthy and everyone else is healthy, having him go in a 5 or 7 game series out of the pen, that could really add some depth to that pen.
All right, Eric, I'm going to give you 2 options. I got 2 other things I want to talk to you about before we jump out. I want to talk about the ABS system and how that's what you've noticed in those first couple of weeks of the season. And then I want to talk about some young studs that are making their debuts. Where do you want to go first?
Let's do ABS first, and then we'll talk about some of those guys.
Okay. So the one thing that I like about it, I like how efficient it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not taking up a ton of time. They're able to show us at home what they're seeing, and the turnaround is like less than a minute, which is really, really efficient. And I think you're taking into account the most important part, which is getting the call right. Um, how do you feel about how it's being used, and then how the efficiency of it?
I like it. I mean, I feel like it's not really intrusive into the game at all. It happens really quick. Like you said, they're showing the box. You can see right away, basically, if it's a strike or a ball. Uh, to me, I don't see a real downside to it. I think some teams need to learn how to use it. Who was it? The Nationals the other day that were out of them by
Yeah,
the third inning or so.
third inning, right?
So it's like I think that is going to be another strategy that some teams are going to have to kind of employ to figure out how they want to use it, because it again they're used to playing without it, but it could really come in handy having one of those in your back pocket in a eighth or ninth inning in a big spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far I'm really happy with the way it's worked out. And like you said, I don't know if you saw this, because I know we've had some umpire discussions. Did you see CB Buckner? Is that what you're going to get into? Go ahead.
All right. So Eric, this is really creepy because I literally have like 5 tweets bookmarked to kind of reference as we're talking, and I literally have them up on the screen. So go ahead.
I forget the exact numbers, but all I remember saying to myself is, I am so glad that something is finally going to humble this guy. I don't think he actually will get humbled. I think he's that much of a pompous, you know what. But
I
like,
agree.
it's just one of those things where he's finally going to be, at least look like he has to be held accountable. He might not care. I think he's just one of those guys where it's like, well, I'm right, you're wrong. It's, well, not anymore. But
For sure.
I just love seeing it that now everyone's going to be like, oh, everyone already knew he was bad, but now there's actual like data-driven evidence to show that he is one of the worst umpires to ever have a job in Major League Baseball.
All right. So the stat that I think you might be referring to is, so it seems like Codify, which is they're kind of taking the stats from the umpire scorecards and kind of formulating all that data into something tangible to be able to see. So the umpire calls in their first outings using the ABS system. CB Buckner has incorrectly called 26 balls and strikes. Either way, the next closest guys, there are 2 guys at 19. So that he's clearly ahead of, now there's 2 guys at 19, and then there's 2 guys at 16. So he's well above the average. The average is in like the 10, 11, 12 range. There's some guys that are really impressive that have only had 5, which is impressive.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, another part of the conversation that comes in with Real Muto because of his ability to know the strike zone and know when, where, and how to challenge these pitches. And I think this is a huge strategic part of the game on both sides, knowing that like you have some hitters that are really good at knowing the strike zone. I think this is like this is going to help out later on in the season. Schwarber, Harper, right? Those 2 guys in particular who are really attuned to knowing where the strike zone is. And you've seen Harper in the past get really heated when those pitches kind of go on the opposite side. But CB Buckner, right? He had in the one game on March 28th had 6 overturned calls in one game.
Yeah, I think that was the one. I saw both of those, but that was the one I was really thinking, because I'm like, at what point are you just like, okay, like I need to be better?
Right? Like,
and I'm not saying it's an easy job. Like, I mean, it's a tough job. Like, those balls are moving a lot. But when you've been doing it as long as he has, and just has been consistently bad for as long as he has, like, when is something going to wake this guy up?
It is wild. I think for me, I'm glad that it's not being used wholly, but they're figuring out a way to better incorporate it into the game, which is, I think, a smart, smooth transition into inevitably what we know is going to become a part of the game moving forward. I think it only as they figure out how to incorporate it, I think it only expands into other parts of the game. Because I think if you use it the right way, it can be really helpful to be able to make sure that the calls on the field are right. Because we've seen plays in the past where, the play that comes to mind is that was it the perfect game? Galarraga hit the perfect that he loses the perfect game on a missed call that to everybody at home was blatantly obvious. And for what? Because we don't want a grown man to get his feelings hurt. Like, sorry, I think it will be better for the game.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's funny, I was actually thinking of the Galarraga one the other day because I was thinking about how bad Buckner is and just doesn't care that he's bad, whereas Jim Joyce was the ump that messed up the Galarraga perfect game. And he was like super gracious about it afterwards. I remember his post-game interview, he was in tears. He's like, I took that away. I took something special away from that guy. The next day he went out and Galarraga came out and did the lineup cards. And like again, they're human. They're going to mess up. I mean, that was a very large scale mess up, but at least he was accountable, right? I gained respect for him in that case. Whereas guys before Joe West retired, he just wanted no part of anyone telling him he was wrong. CB Buckner is the same exact way. Like some of these guys just have such egos. And it was fun. I was watching the Flyers game the other night where that ref grabbed Porter Martone.
Oh, that was awful.
I'm like, is this an epidemic going on with sports officiating? Like, who do they think they are? Like, no one's watching a game to watch you. Just do your job and shut up.
And if you do become part of the story, it's never in a good light.
Right. And no one's ever going to be like, oh, I'm on the ump side here, or I'm on the ref side here.
No, the ump is the ump. The umps are the fence. Nobody's on the side of the fence. All right, so young guys, right? We have two here, right, in Painter and Crawford, and they've been impressive moving forward in terms of their first week on the job. The thing that real quick, one thing we didn't talk about with Andrew Painter that I love is the fact that it brought a fan group back. We haven't had the fan groups in a really, really long time. We had obviously the Wolfpack was one of the originals. You had the Padillas, Flotillas. You've had some really classic ones, but we saw in his debut at home Andrew's Painters, which I thought was really, really cool.
That a couple of years ago, didn't we? I think we were talking about some of this with fan groups. And I think we came up with a Painters one. I mean, it was super obvious. I'm not like saying we're the only people thinking it. But I think we kind of talked about it.
If there's not an MAB Paints giveaway, like a Painter's hat, like they used to, the hat giveaways then were like those paper hats that had like the paper thin plastic, like the actual Painter's hat. But now some of the giveaways now, I just saw they just released a new one, Eric, I think in August. There's a Bryce Harper football jersey for kids 14 and under, which I was like, I might have to take Kip just to pretend like he's not taller than me and still 14. But young guys around the league, there's two guys that I want to talk about, right? The one guy makes his, Connor Griffin makes his debut yesterday. He gets the huge extension as a teenager. Starts at shortstop yesterday. Has the RBI, has the big double to kind of get the inning started. It's the first time, Eric, that in a long time that I was like, I want to watch this kid play. I literally had them both on at the same time.
I did too,
It was really, really cool to see his family. A really impressive debut for him. And then like gets dirty on the next play, right? Scores from second on a big hit, right? Kind of gets the inning started. Talk to me about him, and then there's another local guy.
Yeah, Connor Griffin. I mean, the hype around him has been has been insane. I was actually kind of surprised that he didn't make the opening day roster with Pittsburgh.
I
But
think there was a little bit of manipulation there. I think
But
there's
did it even? You know what? I think it probably did. Yeah, because by doing that, and it has to do with the timing of the
the
signed contract
signing.
too. There was some manipulation with that too. But I'll give the Pirates credit for signing a guy
Right?
at any point in time, and not just trading him away. But I mean, as a 19-year-old getting what was it, $140 million contract, like, and
Hmm.
he's not, so he's going to be 28 by the time that contract's done. He's going to be in his prime still, and it could, if the projections are correct and he pans out the way he's going to, and the way that that money in baseball keeps kind of going up, he's going to be due for another big payday down the road. He has all the tools basically. I'm really excited to watch him, and
Yeah.
not that I don't here's the thing with the Pirates, right? I think they have a good fan base because it's a good baseball city. I know it's football city too, but
They
it's
really do.
really the only I don't dislike the Pirates. They have a great stadium. I hate ownership there because of what they kind of did to the franchise. But it would be cool to see the Pirates relevant again, and they're getting guys in
Very
there
cool.
now
You're right.
with Skeens and Connor Griffin, and kind of having Brian Reynolds out there to kind of build around,
Yep.
and O'Neal Cruz. They have some guys now, and it's like they actually, again, I don't think they're a playoff threat just yet, but I do think that we're going to look at a team that maybe wins 80 some games this year, because they actually have some
Yeah,
pieces.
they could be sneaky. They could be
Yeah.
sneaky, difficult, and really make. They could make the teams in that division. They could make their lives really challenging because they have an above average roster. They have really cultivated some young talent, and I think just seeing him, kind of have the success that he did on opening on his in his debut, um, just really, I'm really impressed, especially like for a kid at 19 to step into that role, um, and kind of have the day that he did. Really impressive. The other guy is Kevin McGonigal, right? The guy who really has been really impressive, in making the opening day roster for the Tigers. Local guy from Delaware County. I mean, he has really impressive opening. Right, he's what 4 for 4, so 4 for 5
Mhm.
on opening day.
Yeah.
Smart player, kind of hits the cover off the ball all over the field.
Yep.
Has that at bat where it's a 10 pitch at bat in the eighth inning to kind of to give the Tigers the lead late. Um, just really impressed with him as a young player.
Yeah, he's another exciting one to watch. I mean, he's hitting like almost 350, I think, right now
Mm-hmm.
to start the year. And Detroit's another team that has some sneaky talent on it too.
Yeah,
Out
you're right.
there in the AL Central. So bring him up, I think is good for development at this point. I mean, yeah, he seems to be ready. It's baseball's in a really good spot right now with a lot of you have your superstars and everything, and Otani and Judge and all those guys, but
Yeah,
you're also starting to see this influx of young guys with a lot of hype around them, and it's really cool to see them coming up. The JJ Weatherholt in St. Louis is another interesting one to
yeah,
keep an eye
yeah,
on. There's quite a few, so it's good seeing these guys kind of come up, and again, it's fun because it gives you like I'm watching other games because of these guys. Like you were saying
for sure.
yesterday, I brought the TV out on the deck, so I'm watching the Phillies out there.
Nice.
And on my laptop, I put the Pirates game on so I can watch Connor Griffin. Before that, I was watching the Tigers game, partially for McGonigal, but also because I have Framber Valdez in my fantasy league, so I had to
Fantasy.
see
Yeah,
had to check in and see how he was doing. But just seeing these young guys, like I have MLB TV, so it's like, oh, let me check in on this team. Let me see how this guy's doing, just because it's
yeah.
fun seeing something new and different, and kind of seeing how these guys' careers are going to pan out.
Yeah, I'm just a huge fan, and I'm going to come at it from a little bit of a different perspective, Eric. I can really, really love and appreciate teams just saying this guy's talented. Let's just bring him up. Let's see what he has.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we've seen far too many of those opportunities with the Phillies where they're essentially waiting for them to blossom before taking the chance to see what they have. Yeah, and the guy obviously to watch in the Phillies organization is Aiden Miller, battling through some injuries earlier on in spring training. But I think based on the way that the trajectory of this roster is going to play out with Bohm and Bohm's contract expiring at the end of the season, we could be in a position like this next year where we're seeing that next young wave of talent come through here. But I love the fact that these organizations are basically saying, like, what are we waiting on? We can see this guy is talented. We can see that he has the tools to be successful at this level. Let's just bring him up and let's see what he has. Because if he does, right, then that's extra years of service that they're getting at a significantly cheaper cost than they would ever get from, if they're waiting down the line and then have to sign him long term.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think you also have to look at it like the Pirates really have no expectations this year, right? So bring Connor
Very
Griffin
true.
up. It's not like if he does kind of flounder in his rookie season, it's going to hurt the team's postseason chances. If anything, even if he's not as good as he's supposed to be, he's still better than what they would have had.
For sure.
Tigers, I think expectations are probably a little higher just because they have, it's potentially Scooble's last year there. And they have some other decent players in that lineup. And actually bringing in Framber Valdez, I think that kind of shows that they're serious about trying to make a postseason run here while they have Scooble. But bringing him up again, I mean, he's better than what they had at shortstop. So it's like, okay, what's really going to be the issue? Whereas the Phillies, I feel like over the last few years, they have someone there, and it's kind of, well, do we want to rush this guy because there's already someone here? If they're not good, then who do we use to replace? So I think it's a little bit of a different mindset in terms of expectation. That's not to say I think the Phillies do wait sometimes too long to bring guys up. I think Crawford's a good example of that. I think Painter made sense last year, but I think Crawford was a good example. He probably could have come up at some point last year.
All right, Eric. On the way out, we'll go Phils and enjoy the weather, and we'll talk in a couple weeks.
Yep, go Phils.